Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game SO Targeting Series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, more specifically in this instance, the work-in-progress Atari Jaguar core, because since I brought you the news last week that the core was actually being worked on again and a lot more games are playable, we've gotten multiple revisions of the core, updating certain aspects, fixing some of the graphics, and trying to get more games working. And we're popping right back into Doom, a game I showed you last time, because while it did run, it had a lot of color issues. When you would fire off the handgun here or any other weapons in Doom, you would see a wrong color on that flash. You will see now it looks exactly like Doom should, and I will show you what it looked like in just a bit. But honestly, the great thing about the Atari Jaguar, at least from a testing perspective, is there isn't a huge library on this. It's not like the PlayStation 1 core, the Nintendo 64 core, or the Sega Saturn core where there's thousands upon thousands of games to play. Well, I guess in Nintendo 64's aspect, only a couple hundred. The Jaguar has such a limited library that actually going through and checking improvements is basically a very easy task, and trust me, after the Saturn core previews, I do welcome that. And it is great to get these improvements in as well, because even though the Doom version on Jaguar might not be the best way to play this game, it is a very fun version. Of course, we want it looking as good as possible. And it was just some color math issues, basically interpreting some of the values incorrectly. So once that gets buttoned up, you get a situation where all of the muzzle flashes on Doom look correct. But let's go over in just a moment and show you what they used to look like so you can understand the changes. Some of them are subtle in this core, others are going to be very fundamentally different. This was the previous version of the core. You'll see that flash there has black color in it, which is not accurate to the original hardware. So again, that color value situation was fixed up, and that was also in Alien vs Predator as well. And while I'll definitely bring you a longer preview of Alien vs Predator, I wanted to show you the footage differences here, because on the original core that we talked about last week, in that heads-up display, when the Marine's portrait goes over those lights, you're going to see that all the colors fall off into black, where now that has been fixed up as well. So it's one of those things with just a color value issue, so you're going to see a lot better graphics in these two games. Now, if you're not getting Alien vs Predator to boot, or if you're just getting a black screen with audio, don't be surprised by that. It can be very tricky to actually get this game running right now. This core is still in development, so if it doesn't work, I'm sure it will soon, because that really is the thing about the timings on the Jaguar core. They are pretty tight, and it does require dual RAM, so again, if you don't have a dual RAM MiSTer FPGA, this isn't going to be working for you currently, and I'm assuming that this is going to stay dual RAM for the entirety of its development, just based upon how the Jaguar architecture works. So if you do want to upgrade, that's totally up to you. I'm not telling you it's time yet, but it may be a situation where you do want dual RAM in the future if you really want to play Atari Jaguar on MiSTer FPGA. But it is great to get all of these improvements and see this core being actively developed after being stagnant for over a couple years. Last time we talked about the Jaguar, it maybe played like 5 or 6 games in total, and none of the games you're seeing here would work. And now today, I would say like maybe 75% to 80% of the library at least shows sign of life, and a lot of the games just seem to be completely playable. Because if there's anything wrong with this Doom footage, I really wouldn't see it. Now moving on to Bubsy, a game that no one really likes but is important because it does have audio we can sample. This is another title that never used to work on the previous core that does work now. And if you're not familiar with Bubsy on the Atari Jaguar, it is infamous for having some of the most insane difficulty ever. Bubsy has no hits. If you even get touched, you go back to the beginning of the level or to the checkpoint. So you basically have to crawl forward in this game to avoid any sort of damage. The problem is the game scrolls and moves so fast, kind of like Sonic the Hedgehog in spots, that you basically get hit and you don't even know what's coming up. So Bubsy's one of those titles. It might not be beloved, but it does have music where a lot of the Jaguar games did not whatsoever, and you'll see there just getting close to that rabbit killed Bubsy completely. So this is going to be your sound sample in just a moment. But leave me a comment down below and tell me, have you ever played Bubsy on the Jaguar? I have beaten this game a very long time ago. I basically challenged myself to try to see the ending, and I will tell you, it is one of the hardest things to do in gaming. It is almost an impossible game to really play, but it has some fun graphics, and of course, with the Jaguar not having much music in many games, it has a soundtrack as well, which is going to be beneficial for us in the sound sample. So go ahead and listen for Bubsy for 45 seconds, and just imagine how hard this game would be to play if you wanted to. But here comes the music. Enjoy it.
Oh, sure. Let's all torch the Bubster.
Looks great, sounds great, and plays exactly like Bubsy on Jaguar should, which is to say not very fun whatsoever. And while I'm not here to make fun of video games, it really is hard to defend that particular version of Bubsy. And big thanks to Andy D for helping with the captures. I think he's never going to talk to me again after I made him play that game, but he should be used to having a bitter taste in his mouth after interacting with me, because I've sent him multiple bottles of Malort in the mail. If you've never had it, it's a Chicago delicacy, but you love it here and it's hated the world over otherwise. But all jokes aside, moving on to Cybermorph, another game you guys wanted to see tested, it is working on the core, and as far as my experience with Cybermorph is concerned, it seems to be relatively accurate to real hardware. Unfortunately, this game really is one of those titles that kind of betrayed the Jaguar on launch. This was supposed to be the big launch title. Everyone was excited for the idea of a fully 3D polygonal console from Atari, and while Cybermorph definitely has a couple of features that are impressive, not having any texture mapping whatsoever, and a game that is just decent at best, really kind of made the Jaguar seem like it also ran on launch day. People were really expecting something special out of this console, and while Cybermorph isn't the worst thing in the world, if this was your first experience with Jaguar, what your promise was probably going to be a little bit different. People were expecting the world out of Jaguar, and Cybermorph kind of just delivered them Hoboken, New Jersey, which is to say something that not everybody wants. If you live in Hoboken, I apologize, I'm just filled with jokes today. But as we fly around the world of Cybermorph, it is working, it does look good, all of the polygons are where they should be, everything here seems to be adhering to what the real hardware would do. And next preview, if you want to see Battlemorph, leave me a comment down below, because I'm going to try to check out every single Jaguar game in these testing series, because there aren't that many and it is really easy to cover the entirety of the library. But I have played Cybermorph from start to finish back in the day, and while I can't say I've loved it, it was kind of showing that the system could handle full 3D, but we really didn't get any texture map polygons on Jaguar for a bit. The system could do it, it just took a little bit more in the coding department to actually get this thing to work. And speaking of which, I've actually purchased a Code Jag arcade board just recently this week to help out over on MiSTer FPGA Discord, because one of the developers, Electron Ash, is kind of poking at the Jaguar, is seeing whether or not this core could actually handle the arcade games. They do have additional RAM, and they have a Motorola 68020 versus 68000, so there is some research to be done into the board. And because my coding skills are absolute garbage every day of the week and twice on Sunday, the areas in which I can help are kind of more the hardware probing, because I'm totally hardware focused. Speaking of games that currently don't work, Fight for Life doesn't, but you're not going to be too bummed about that one. As we move on to Attack of the Mutant Penguins, one of the more fun games on Atari Jaguar. Unfortunately, this is another one that doesn't want to load into the game right now. Every once in a while you might get lucky and see a little bit more sign of life when you reboot the core, but otherwise this is a game, again, that wouldn't really be considered playable. And the last game in this overall look is going to be Flashback. This is a ton of fun if you like this type of game. Stuff like this I absolutely gravitate towards, even if it is a very slow pace, and you get this really fun animated sequence at the beginning, which looks every bit as good as I've ever seen Flashback look. So this is a title, at least as far as the testing goes, seems to be completely playable. But again, remember, when these cores are not finalized, I can only say it's playable up until the point in time that the footage stops being captured or I stop testing a game. It's quite possible that 5 minutes before you see the credits scroll and beat Flashback, there is a freeze that nobody knows about yet. So I don't want you to think that any of the games I show you that are working can be 100% completed until we at least hear of one instance of somebody going in and doing exactly that. But Flashback is a ton of fun. It's got that real PC vibe going on to it. I have played this game on Jaguar. I have beaten it on Jaguar, and you'll just see here standing around, everything looks great on the screen. All of the image, all of the animations, the colors all seem exactly appropriate for what the Jaguar should be doing. All the controls are in. Really zero complaints about this one. And it is one of those games you either absolutely love it or you absolutely hate it. It seems like a very divisive sort of title. So leave me a comment down below and you tell me, stuff like Out of This World, Flashback, do you enjoy them or do you not really click with them? For me, they're a completely different type of experience, but one I really do enjoy. For other people, I know they're kind of mind-numbingly boring. But that is the thing about video games. What I love, you might hate, and what you hate, I might love. But the Atari Jaguar core is definitely improving. There's still a lot of work to be done. And again, if you aren't getting some games like Alien vs. Predator boot, don't worry about that too much, because other people are experiencing the exact same thing. I'm not sure if it's just down to RAM latency or what's going on, but that will basically be discovered as core development goes goes on. If you want to see more Jaguar videos, leave me a comment down below and recommend some more games to test. But as far as the Atari Jaguar core on MiSTer FPGA today, it is in such better shape than it was a month ago. We've gone from like 5 games working to maybe 80% of the library, and that is a massive improvement. But I'll be back with more Jaguar the next time the core updates, and I'll have other MiSTer videos coming as well. But if you want to go play Jaguar today, just remember the core is manual install only. But we are done. We got the cube, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.